Okay, our guest right now here at the Canadian Seed Trade meeting is Jonathan Nyborg. He is president of the Canadian Seed Growers Association. Jonathan, how's it going?
Good, very good.
We had you on at the same time last year.
I believe we did, yeah.
So you're a farmer from New Brunswick.
Yes.
How did let's start with harvest. How'd it go?
Well, it was a pretty decent year. It was a better crop year than it was the previous year. And I think that for the most part, crops came off, fairly early. I guess everybody was done kind of around early part of October. There's still some corn out there that's, commercial corn, but that's probably about the only crop left out right now.
Okay, so you're a seed grower. What crops are you mainly focused in?
Mainly in the cereals, so oats, wheat, and barley. And that's the mainstay in the area for as far as any crops. There's a little bit of soybean seed being grown, but we're in a potato belt, so that's the main crop. But the offshoot of that is the cereal seeds.
Well, you got to have some to rotate in there.
Absolutely, yeah, and
sure.
it works out great for everybody. The potato guys need that rotation, and we're happy to give it to them.
So we actually just talked to Dave Carey from the CSTA. And we were talking about some of the issues in the seed industry, and of course, you're very familiar with some of those same files. Let's start with SeatSynergy. Where is the CSGA with that issue? Are you on board with SeatSynergy at this point?
Absolutely. We've and that's something we've said all along that we want to see this move forward. We want to be able to bring the industry together and be able to find whatever efficiencies we can find within the system, and there's a bit of a culture clash, and we know that, and I think everybody realizes that, and we know that CSGA sometimes takes a little longer to get things done than some of the other organizations, and that's just a matter of that, excuse me, we have a responsibility to go back to our membership and consult with them and ensure that we're getting feedback from them and bringing their ideas forward and making sure that 115 years of what we've been doing with seed certification doesn't just go away.
What's the main hesitation? That growers lose their voice in all this? Or what's the hesitation?
I think that's been a hesitation with everybody.
Okay.
I don't think that's unique to the growers. I think everybody's concerned about losing their voice and having that ability to to get their viewpoints across and continue to have a bit of governance within the industry as we move forward. So that's an issue I think with everybody.
Do we know what the new name is of the organization?
No idea whatsoever.
Okay, I forgot to ask Dave that question.
No, we've been calling it the NSO, the New Seed Organization. We're not at that point yet in boiling down to what a name should be for it. We're still working on the governance and the finances of it and membership and all the details that need to be worked out before we head out for ratification votes. That's the stuff we've got to get done in the next very short time, couple of months.
Well, just from a governance standpoint, you think about all the board members and all the volunteer hours in a year that members of the Canadian seed industry put into these 6 organizations, and the reduction just in that alone, the time factor of just having not to say there isn't going to be subcommittees and things like that, but just the from a governance standpoint of the overall board, that's going to be a major time saver.
Oh, absolutely, and I mean it's a huge time commitment now, and so if you look at these 5 organizations and the way we're operating and that alone and bringing the governance together and because it's not everybody that can afford the time to do these jobs, and I think that those that are there currently, we're all there because we're passionate about the industry and we want to see the industry improve.
Well, as the president of the CSGA, how many days a year do you spend away from the farm?
I've never really sat down to track it.
Because I've had past presidents tell me like 110 days.
Yeah, that would be lowballing it. I think I'm probably closer to 150 now with the work that I've been doing with the oversight committee.
Man, you're up there with my travel.
It's a lot.
Wow.
But again,
that's a lot of hours and days away from the farm.
It is. And if I didn't have my sons at home working with me, just no way I could do it.
Right, for sure. Okay, value creation. That's obviously I would say a little bit more controversial, hotter topic.
It is,
so to speak. Where does the CSGA sit on that issue at this point?
Well, we said back in 2018 when the industry was digging down into this and they come out with the SVUA model. CSGA at that time said, of the two models that are presented to us, Endpoint Royalty and the other one, that's the one that makes more sense. And we know that there are some groups out there that are not happy with either, and they want to look at some other way to do this and bring value and bring funding back into the folks that are putting out new varieties. And we're open. We want to hear what they have to say and their ideas. But currently, the one that we've had presented to us, the SVUA, makes the most sense.
Would you prefer the status quo?
I don't think we can stay with the status quo. I think if we're going to get, especially on the cereal side of things, if we don't get the mechanism to get the funding back to the breeders and the breeding institutions, we're going to be left behind when it comes to cereals and the improvements that can be made in that. And it's just a simple fact of they need that funding back there so they can continue to do the work they do, because the work that they do doesn't just happen in a year or two. That can sometimes take 10, 12 years to get a variety out and so that it's out and ready for production.
So what does CSJ plan to do? Because, when I'm traveling across the country and this topic comes up, I had somebody a couple weeks ago say to me, I can't find a seed grower that's in favor of any of this, right? And clearly the national body is saying, no, we need to do something. And so how do you? It's a broad organization with a lot of members. How do you get everybody inside the tent?
I think it's education. It's letting folks know and really getting down and showing them where the money has to go back and why it has to go back. It's, again, we're a big country and things differ from area to area. And I think in the East Coast, there's a bit more understanding of it, of how this works, and different in the West. And I realize, there's a lot of different checkoffs that growers, producers will have in the West that we don't have in the East. Mm-hmm. And so I realize their fear of being taxed to death, and maybe that's how they're viewing it, as another tax on what it is they do. But I think, if you look at the overall scheme and you look at it from across the country, it only makes sense that we somehow find a way to get that funding back to the breeders and the institutions that do that.
As you travel across the country and go to all the different branch meetings in each province, I'm sure you see personally the diversity that is out there across the different provinces. What about the organization overall? Are you getting enough people into being interested in being seed growers and being a participant in the value chain?
I think we are, and it's difficult when it's difficult to draw folks into our annual meetings and have those discussions with them because we do have some pretty large provinces, and especially here in the West, and it's not a small trip to come from, say, the Peace area down to this area, and so that's one of the difficulties. But we're looking at ways that as we move forward here, we'll have the opportunity to have input from all of our members on when we get into those really critical questions or issues that come up within our organization.
Okay, so we got SeatSynergy, value creation. What are some of the other things that your organization's talking about right now?
We just, we carry on with our improvements and standards and continuing to make sure we're modern and up to date with the standards. And
this is the regulations like Circular 6,
right?
The rules to follow when producing seed.
That's right. And so we're continually looking at Circular 6 and finding ways, where we can tweak things to make things better and easier and still adhere to the high standards that we do have. And I think seed growers in Canada have, some of the highest standards in the world as far as seed production goes, and I mean that's something that I take a great deal of pride in. When you visit some of the other certifying agencies around the world, whether it's OECD or AOSCA in the States, so we still have some pretty high standards, and not that the others are really lax either, but
right.
we do tend to keep our standards up there very high.
And hey, personally, I have a history with the organization. My grandfather was at one time national president of the CSGA, and I grew up in the seed industry, so I have some bit of a background here. When you talk to some of the members, they're struggling to find where their role is. Right? Am I a grower? Am I a distributor? Am I a retailer? there's a lot of different models out there, which I think it becomes difficult from a national perspective to assist in enabling them to be successful. Is that fair?
It is, and because we are, I mean, there's so many of our members within CSGA that, you know, they're doing the full gambit, from, you know, getting breeder seed and multiplying that down, and then retailing it themselves and trying to get in and market that. And, you know, I think that's one of the things when we talk about SeatSynergy and bringing the organizations together. I mean, I think that's one of the efficiencies or benefits that we're going to find is that, you know, currently I'm not a member of CSTA. If we bring these organizations together under one roof, then I have access to that. I have access to what CSTA does currently. And to me, it just opens up. It's going to open up the market for what I do and then in marketing my own seed, my own products.
Well, Jonathan, I really appreciate you joining us here today. I know the session is back in now, so you probably have to get back in the room, but I really appreciate you taking some time for Real Ag Radio today.
No problem, Sean. Thank you very much.